very best fighters have an almost inscrutable element to them. Though there are countless games where you can punch and kick your way to victory, these special few manage to make every fight a small spectacle. They become more than a weekend time waster, motivating you to get better even after the most crushing defeat. Tekken 7 is one of those games. The series is more than 2 decades old, but this latest iteration is filled with so much vitality that even its most expected elements are captivating once again. While Tekken 7 does fumble some of the details its competitors have nailed, it has a solid core that rises above these shortcomings. A large part of Tekken 7's appeal comes down to its presentation. Even the smallest elements have a certain sharpness to them that contributes to the overall sense of excitement. The character select screen, for instance, features large, clear portraits of the 37 available characters, with light reflecting off shards of broken glass floating in the background. After choosing characters and a stage, the words "Get ready for the next battle" appear in a giant golden font surrounded by flames. The game carries itself like it's a very big deal, and the performance is convincing enough that it's easy to buy into. Such swagger is present in the soundtrack as well, which does a fine job of pumping players up with swelling electric beats. The biggest aesthetic success is also the most important one. Every character looks fantastic, contributing an identifiable and distinct personality. The burly wrestler King appears both distinguished and intimidating in his flowing white cape, while characters like the suave exorcist Claudio have enough of their own pizzazz to fit right into the eccentric roster. As usual with Tekken, every attack has a hefty sense of weight, making the most basic move feel like a small victory as you shave chunks of red from your opponent's health bar. Effective new visual additions ratchet up the drama of fights, such as a slow-motion effect that kicks in when both players are at low health and attack simultaneously. Because the effect only happens during already tense moments, it doesn't grow tiresome. It's just a smart way for the game to puff up finales without becoming overbearing. As far as the fighting itself goes, Tekken 7 is largely familiar, but what it does add feels significant. For those fresh to the series, 2 of Tekken's most identifiable traits are precise movement and lengthy air combos. Players can sidestep attacks by moving toward or away from the camera, which can be preferable to blocking because you don't take any damage and you can easily follow up to punish the opponent. Every character can also launch the enemy upward, allowing for follow-up combos called juggles, where they're completely defenseless, hanging in midair as you pummel away. What's new are Rage Arts, Rage Drives, and Power Crushes. Rage Arts are similar to super moves in other fighting games and is equally grand. The catch is that they can't be activated until the player is down to 25% health or less. Every Rage Art is extremely powerful and gets more powerful as your health lowers, making it a dangerous comeback mechanic that plays into the mind games of a match. Much like the aforementioned slow motion that occasionally happens, it's another way to spice up the end of fights, but experienced players can block or avoid careless Rage Arts, preventing them from feeling cheap. Like Rage Arts, Rage Drives can only be activated at low health, and they open up lengthy combo opportunities. Meanwhile, Power Crush moves continue even if you're taking damage from mid or high attacks, essentially easing the pressure from a particularly aggressive player. All of these new mechanics can be understood within a couple of minutes, and are easy to execute. Unlike other fighting games, it doesn't take a lot to start doing something flashy or effective in Tekken. Many moves are performed with simple button combinations, sometimes combined with basic directional inputs. Yet where Tekken falls short is informing the player on why these moves are effective or when to use them. There's no tutorial mode at all, and while there is a solid practice mode, those completely new to Tekken will likely find themselves losing after a while, without completely understanding why. As with almost any fighter, there are an abundance of resources online, but considering the game does so well in many other areas, it's disappointing to see this aspect neglected. There is, however, a fair amount to do even if you can't muster the courage to take your skills online. The most prominent is a cinematic story mode that focuses on the long-standing feud between the devil-possessed Kazuya and his father Heihachi. Thanks in part to an emotionless and irrelevant narrator, the storytelling is far from great, but the mode is entertaining because it's infused with the perfect amount of Tekken goofiness. Whether it's watching Heihachi punch and kick away missiles, or seeing Akuma bust into a dojo in spectacular fashion, these scenes are perfect reminders that, although Tekken may not always make sense, it's nonetheless a blast to be a part of because of how readily it embraces its own schlock. You switch between different fighters often throughout the story, and the whole thing lasts around 3 hours. It's long enough to feel substantial without overstaying its welcome. Newcomers may have some difficulty with the final 2 fights of the story, but it's nothing that can't be overcome with a bit of patience and persistence. Outside of the story, there's a traditional arcade mode as well as individual character episodes. These episodes only feature one fight apiece, and although they are exceptionally brief, each ends with what is usually a comical cutscene in the classic Tekken style. If the idea of a panda bodyguard desperately searching for her master sounds appealing, the humor as a whole will likely resonate with you. Treasure Battle is an endless fight mode and the primary place to earn customization items like new headgear, hit effects, and costumes. Occasionally, you'll be thrown a curveball like a special match against a boss character or a fight set at a significantly faster speed. Considering how ludicrous some of the unlockable items are, such as a mini-tank that follows you around, there's proper incentive to keep playing, if only to see how crazy things get. The downside is that getting these items from chests is completely random. It's frustrating to play for hours and not get the one thing you really want. The various online modes, ranked matches, unranked player matches, and tournament battles all work well after a recent patch, and we've had no trouble connecting to lag-free fights. Tournaments are especially great to have around since it's a solid way to earn a sizable amount of fight money and loot outside of Treasure Battle. Tekken 7 is every bit as great as its over-the-top presentation suggests. The fighting is immediately gratifying, the roster is impressively expansive, and there's a fair amount to do regardless of the type of player you are. Here's a game that takes pride in its own legacy, and instead of that pride feeling unearned or overstated, Tekken 7 makes a thorough case for itself. At a time when plenty of fighters are competing for attention, it seems there's more than enough room for the King of Iron Fist. Easy Allies reviews are made possible by generous viewers just like you. If you like what you see, check out patreon.com/easyallies to see our other videos, and consider becoming a patron to help us make more.